All right, we're going to do cofunctions, and if you noticed, we've kind of skipped over 10.4 and 10.5 and gone right to 10.6. I'll pick up 10.4 and 10.5 when we look at the graphs of sine and cosine waves. It's a lot easier than trying to understand it off a unit circle. So cofunctions comes from complementary. You see, sine is from the Latin word which means to rise and fall, a fold, or a curve. Thus you have the unit circle, and it'll make even more sense when we see the sine wave in the next chapter. Cosine really meant the complement of sine. So you can see that complement was later shortened to co for cosine. Now, I know you're all going to be heartbroken over this, but I've lost my pen for my little scribble board here, and I'm going to have to try and use the cursor to draw, so just bear with me. So what you're doing today is you're just going to play around and find the cofunctions of each other. So for example, what we have here is the sine of 30. And we all know from our unit circle the sine of 30 is 0.5. But look what the cosine of 60 is. That is also 0.5. And that's because they're cofunctions. We have the word co. But if you notice something even more, if you took 30 and 60 and added them together, you get 90 because they complement each other. So down here, if you look at our next one, we have 43 and 47. And if you added 43 and 47 together, voila, you get 90 again. And once again, sine and cosine are cofunctions to each other. They complement each other. So if you take your calculator and took the sine of 43 and took the cosine of 47, you will see that they're the same. And likewise, we can go down and we can show that for all the functions. Secant has its complement of cosecant. 35 and 55 add together to 90. And again, we can take each one and you'll see that you'll get the same answer. And you can also see that again with tangent and its cofunction, cotangent. So it's kind of easy to figure out who are complements or cofunctions to each other. They have the co. So now you understand why sine and it's called cosine, and why cosecant has to match up with secant, and cotangent and tangent, they're complement to each other. And again, if we took the sine tangent of 72 and the cotangent of 18, we get the same answer. So that's what you're going to be playing today. You're going to be just playing around and trying to find the cofunctions to given examples. Now, just to explain why, real quick, here's a unit circle. And for the most part, we were always using this angle down here that originated off the origin. And if we were to say take the sine of this angle, sine is opposite over hypotenuse. See? And that's what we have right here. The sine of this angle is y over r. But if we were to look at the other angle in the picture, if we were to look at this angle up here, angle beta, if we remember just basically from junior high, theta plus this angle B, I know, look at this bad handwriting, it's going to equal 90 degrees because they're in a right triangle together and they're the two angles outside of the 90-degree angle, so of course they have to add up to 180 with the 90-degree angle. So if I took the cosine of beta, it would be its adjacent side over its hypotenuse. And those are the same answers. and that's why they're cofunctions. So that's what you're going to be doing today. You're going to have to try and figure out angles and their cofunctions. So let's go try a few examples. In tonight's homework, you're going to be charged with writing each term, but instead you have to use its cofunction. So for example, the sine of 78. The first thing you're going to think is, what is its cofunction? Well, it's whatever co is. Co, sine, so its cofunction is cosine. Next thing we have to do is we have to figure out the complement. That's what co stands for. So we have to find the complement of my angle. All right, well, my angle is 78. So 78, what's my co? How do I do that again? Oh, there we go. I just take 90 and I minus 78 and I get 12. So now if I put it all together, there it is, the cosine of 12. And if I take out my calculator, I can always check myself to make sure that I get 100 on this. So I can just type in the sine of 78. I can take the cosine of 12, and they get the same answer, so therefore I'm okay. All right, let's try the next one. Tangent. First thing I have to think, what is the cofunction? Oh, cotangent. All right, cos stands for complementary, so I have to find the complement of 118? How do I find the complement of 118? It's got to add up to 90, and 118 is already over 90. Oh, I have to go back to reference angles. I have to find the complement of the reference angle. So I've got two steps here. First of all, I have to find the reference angle to 118, which is 62. Then I have to find the complement to 62, which is 28. Now, to give you a quick view of that, you just got to remember that we are over here with 128. We'd be over here in the second quadrant. So I would have gone here, and that was the angle I was looking for. How far? They gave me angle 118. See, they gave me this. See, that was angle 118. So I had to find the reference angle to 118, which was 62. But that's not the angle I wanted, remember. I wanted its cofunction. So I was really looking for this angle up here. And then we did 90 minus 62 to get our, see, 90 minus 60 is 30, 28, and that's how I got this 28 right here. I'm trying to find the other angle in my triangle now. The last thing we have to do is take cotangent and put 28. Now, why is there a negative in there? Well, that's because you are in the second quadrant. And in the second quadrant, as you can see up here, tangent would be negative. So I have to throw this negative in front so it works. And again, I can show you that on a calculator. If you take the tangent of 118, see how the answer is negative? If I take the cotangent of 28, see how the answer is positive? Well, that's because 28 is an angle in the first quadrant where everybody is positive. So I've got to throw that negative on front to make it work. Okay, let's do a couple more. Cosine, by now it's kind of easy. What's the cofunction to cosine? Sine. I have to find its complement, but once again, 320 is above 90, so I have to find its reference angle. So 320 is in the fourth quadrant. So 360 minus 320 means its reference angle is 40, but we're not dealing with the reference angle. We're dealing with the complement to the reference angle. So that's 50. Therefore, it's the sine of 50. And once again, we can always take out our calculator and check that. The cosine of 320 gets me that, and the sine of 50 gets me that. Good. And notice once again, I'm in the fourth quadrant where cosine would be positive, and that's why I didn't have to throw a negative in front of this. All right, last example. Cosecant. What is the cofunction to cosecant? Secant. I have to find the complement of this angle, 215. Well, there we are again. All right, so 215 is in the third quadrant. So how do I find reference angles in the third quadrant? I find out how far I'm beyond 180. I'm 35 degrees. Okay, now that I have my reference angle, I have to find the complement to my reference angle, 55. So, put it all together, secant 55. And once again, I have to throw a negative in front of that because in the fourth quadrant, only tangent is positive. And I'm not using tangent. I'm using cosecant. And just for good sake, let's check it out. The cosecant means 1 divided by the sine of 215. And secant is 1 divided by the cosine, and this time I said 55. Excellent, I get the same answer as long as I throw a negative in front of it. You know what's coming. Bye.